Chapter 9: The Family Affair. 2 decades ago, within the confines of a secluded courtyard guarded by towering walls, 3 siblings reveled in the innocence of childhood. Thimpak, the eldest at the age of 10, exuded confidence and leadership. His 6-year-old brother, Ager, possessed a mischievous spirit, always eager to join in the fray. Meanwhile, Rigard, the youngest of the trio at a tender age of 3, observed their play with wide-eyed wonder, his laughter ringing out like a bell in the serene atmosphere. Their game of make-believe swordsmanship unfolded amidst the dappled sunlight filtering through the lush foliage, the rustling leaves providing a rhythmic backdrop to their imaginary battles. Armed with nothing but wooden sticks, they wielded their makeshift weapons with gusto, their youthful energy infusing the courtyard with vibrant life. Each clash and parry echoed through the air, filling the secluded space with the joyous sounds of their shared adventure.
The pack, go easy on Regard, he's only 3.
Ager interjected, his concern evident as he watched his youngest brother enthusiastically swing his stick.
Ager, he's holding his own already.
Thimpak responded, impressed by Rigard's unexpected skill. Just then, Rigard executed a skillful feint, catching the pack off guard and landing a solid hit between his legs. Ager burst into laughter, teasing.
That's what you get?
Their playful banter was interrupted by the approach of a frail old servant, clad in typical servant garb.
Sires, your parents are waiting. Dinner is ready.
The servant announced. With a shared grin, Thimpak arose and gathered himself, and the trio dashed toward the castle's side entrance, their footsteps echoing through the corridors as they passed the servants' quarters and the bustling kitchen. Inside the grand dining room, their mother, a striking woman with cascading dark black hair and adorned in a regal yellow gown, awaited their arrival with a gentle smile. Laughing, she said,
"You boys are filthy. Go clean up before your father sees you."
She scolded playfully, her hand resting affectionately on her pregnant belly. At that moment, a tall man entered, his presence commanding attention. Clad in typical royal attire, he boasted a mane of long dark hair, a full beard framing his stern face, and a formidable long sword at his side.
"Let me guess. They've been outside. They need to be learning their royal duties,"
he remarked with a wry smile, his tone firm yet tinged with affection as he surveyed his mischievous sons.
"They are still children. Matthew."
Araha, the woman, defended.
"Araha, I will not be around forever, and our land needs to be taken care of effectively,"
Matthew countered.
"It will be fine. Let them be children for now."
Araha insisted. Matthew momentarily looked down and away, then broke into a smile.
"The Emperor is calling all us emirs to the capital next week. This could be serious."
"Here are the children, let's not talk about this,"
Araha said sternly. The family gathered around the grand dining table, with Matthew, the father, occupying the head of the table with a stern demeanor. On the opposite end, his wife sat, her countenance radiating warmth as she observed her children with fondness. Servants bustled about, serving the meticulously prepared meal as the aroma of delicious dishes filled the air. The 3 boys, Thimpak, Ager, and Rigard, engaged in lively chatter, their youthful energy echoing through the hall. However, their voices were soon hushed by a single commanding look from their father, Matthew, imposing order with his mere presence. As the first light of dawn painted the sky in hues of gold and pink, Matthew stepped out of his home, his expression stern and purposeful. Today held significant importance, for he was bound for a crucial meeting with the Emperor himself. With each step, Matthew's mind buzzed with anticipation, his thoughts consumed by the weight of the matters he would discuss with the ruler of the land. He dreaded what the Emperor would be talking about. Rumors of war were flying about in the royal channels. They just recovered from the last 100-year war, and he doesn't want to put his children through this again. With determined strides, Matthew set forth on his journey, his heart steadfast and resolute, ready to face whatever challenges awaited him in the grand halls of the imperial palace. Savar met him at the gate with 5 of his soldiers on horseback.
"My lord, the carriage awaits."
As Savar opens up the door to the carriage, Matthew gets in the carriage and Savar soon followed him inside. Matthew sat in the seat in the front while Savar sat in the back. They faced each other and Savar rested his hand on his sword.
"What do you think this is about, sire?"
asked Savar.
"I fear this will be about Bolin."
Matthew responded.
"We are still too weak to fight them again. Plus, I want my sons to grow up in a peaceful time. We have had too much war."
The Emperor wants to reclaim our glory of old.
Savar said solemnly.
What do you think you will do?
I don't know. I don't know, my friend.
Matthew said. As Matthew's journey progressed, the landscape gradually changed, each passing mile bringing him closer to the heart of the realm's power, the grand palace where the emperor held sway. The anticipation building within Matthew mirrored the mounting tension of his surroundings, his determination unyielding in the face of the challenges ahead. At last, the towering gates of the palace loomed into view, their imposing presence a testament to the authority housed within its walls. With measured steps, Matthew and his retinue crossed the threshold, the echoes of their footfalls reverberating against the stone floor. Within the palace, opulent corridors stretched out before them, adorned with tapestries depicting the rich history of the realm and gilded ornaments that spoke of the emperor's grandeur. Guards stood at attention along the way, their vigilant watch underscoring the solemnity of the occasion. With each step, Matthew drew closer to the heart of power, his resolve unshakable as he prepared to confront the weighty matters awaiting him in the hallowed halls of the emperor's court. As they pulled up, the emperor's guard were at entrance to the palace.
Only two of you can come. Emperor's orders,
said one of the guards.
This is not how we do this. I cannot leave my protection behind.
Matthew retorted.
I can tell him you will not comply.
The guard responded.
Savar, come with me. The rest of my guards can wait here. Emperor's orders.
As Matthew and Savar were escorted by the emperor's guards, they couldn't help but feel a sense of apprehension at the unexpected turn of events. Passing by the grand throne room, they exchanged puzzled glances, wondering why they were being led elsewhere within the palace grounds. Their confusion only deepened when they arrived at a chamber adorned with unfamiliar etchings, symbols whose meaning eluded both Matthew and Savar. As they entered, they found themselves in the company of the other leaders of the land, their expressions reflecting a mix of curiosity and concern. Behind a translucent curtain, the silhouette of the emperor and one of his advisors could be seen, adding an air of intrigue to the proceedings. With a sense of anticipation hanging heavy in the air, Matthew and Savar awaited the commencement of the meeting, uncertain of what lay in store.
We must reclaim our glory,
the emperor exclaimed.
We let Bolan get away with their transgressions for far too long.
The room of the emirs were silent in fear. The emirs looked around at each other wanting to say something, but not knowing what.
Your Majesty, our armies are still dwindled. It will take a generation to refill our forces.
Matthew said.
We don't have the strength at this moment to wage war again.
The emirs nodded in agreement, their expressions reflecting a mix of concern and apprehension. The weight of the emperor's proclamation hung heavy in the air, casting a shadow over the gathered leaders as they grappled with the implications of his decree. As the advisor whispered into the emperor's ear, an unsettling feeling swept through the room, causing nausea to grip the assembled leaders. Suddenly, a corpulent figure clad in resplendent royal attire burst into the chamber.
Brother, listen to the man.
It didn't take long for everyone to know this was not the emperor's brother, but the advisor's.
Why are you here?
The advisor retorted sharply, his tone laced with suspicion. As the large man approached from behind, his hand came to rest on the advisor's shoulder, a silent gesture that spoke volumes of their intertwined alliance.
It is no time yet. No thing is in place,
the large man asserted, his voice carrying an air of authority and conviction. As their conversation delved into whispers, the atmosphere in the room grew increasingly tense, accompanied by a creeping sensation of nausea that seemed to permeate the very air. The emperor remained silent, his gaze fixed on the two figures engaged in conversation. After what felt like an eternity, the large man abruptly turned and departed, his departure coinciding with a gradual dissipation of the unsettling nausea that had enveloped the room. The emperor reattained himself in a royal manner.
As I was saying, we must regain our glory. When you leave here, it is my directive for you to refill your armies at whatever it takes so we can be ready to regain our rightful place in this world.
That is all the emperor has for you. Once you leave here, you will not speak of anything you have seen,
the advisor demanded. The emperor and his advisor leave through a door behind the curtain.
That was strange, my friend,
said Matthew.
I thought for a moment he was going to kill me.
The emirs leave the war room and funnel back to their carriages. As Matthew got in the carriage, he looked back and saw a dark shimmer that appeared then soon disappeared. They started to head back home.
Sire, what do you want to do?
Savar asked.
I want to find a way to protect my children and the children of my city. I feel this is not the Emperor's will, but the two men who were in there with him.
He is the Emperor, though, and he does what they say.
Savar stated.
I fear those two are something much worse.
Matthew said.
I thought we learned our lesson that perpetual war isn't sustainable and just weakens us as a whole.
I don't think peace will be an option.
Savar said.
I am afraid you are right.
Matthew retorts. 10 years had withered the once majestic castle grounds, leaving them in a state of neglect. Only a handful of servants remained, their numbers a stark contrast to the bustling household of years past. In the courtyard stood Dimpak, Rigard, and Matthew, the tension palpable in the air. Above them, Araha peered out from a window on the third floor, her expression troubled as she observed the scene below. Rigard, now a young man, stood defiant, a Kazan sword strapped to his side.
I am leaving. You cannot stop me,
he declared, his voice laced with determination. His father, Matthew, met his son's defiance with stern resolve.
Leave, and you will never be welcomed back.
He retorted firmly, his gaze unwavering. Dimpak, his forehead bloodied from a recent altercation, added his own disdainful remark.
Leave, brat. We don't need you here.
Dimpak sneered, his words dripping with contempt. Matthew shot his eldest son a disapproving glare, silently reprimanding his callousness.
I don't need anything from any of you.
As Rigard began to exit the castle gates, a large man wearing heavy armor and their family crest on his chest, a shield in the center with two red dragons crawling, one on the left and the other on the right with red and yellow stripes along the shield, stepped in front of him, blocking his exit from the grounds.
Savar, you have not been able to beat me for the last year.
I have to try. Your father may not know it, but he needs you here,
Savar said. As he was about to draw his sword, Rigard quickly drew his weapon, pointing it at his heart.
Savar, stand down. Let him go,
Matthew said. Rigard sheathed his sword and walked out the front gate past Savar. He looked back for a moment to notice his mother and sister crying from the window they were watching, turned around and kept walking, leaving the castle behind. The thought crossed his mind as he saw his sister Regini.
I will miss you, sister.
Alone in the wilderness, Rigard faced the challenges of survival with determination. The first night proved difficult, armed only with his sword. Hungry and weary, he managed to hunt down a small rodent, its meager meat providing sustenance as he struggled to start a fire. Despite his efforts, he overcooked the meat, but hunger drove him to devour it nonetheless, before seeking shelter under the canopy of a nearby tree. In the days that followed, Rigard pressed onward, his resolve unyielding. With the dawn of a new day, Rigard set about his survival tasks with renewed vigor. Drawing upon the lessons imparted by Savar, he skillfully set traps to ensnare his prey, relying on his knowledge of the wilderness to secure food for himself. As the day progressed, his efforts bore fruit, and he found himself with a bounty of game to sustain him. With a flicker of nostalgia, Rigard reminisced about the time spent under Savar's tutelage, learning the art of survival in the untamed wilds. Those lessons now served him well, guiding his actions as he navigated the challenges of his solitary journey. Each task, each small triumph, was a testament to the wisdom passed down by his mentor, a reminder of the resilience forged in the crucible of adversity. Amidst the hustle and bustle of the port city, Rigard pressed forward with single-minded determination, his sights set on securing passage to North Otros. Navigating through the crowded streets and bustling docks, he sought out ships bound for his desired destination, undeterred by the challenges that lay before him. With each step, Rigard's resolve hardened, fueled by a relentless drive to reach his goal. Despite the obstacles that threatened to impede his progress, he remained steadfast in his pursuit, drawing upon the inner strength that had guided him thus far. It was not an easy task, fraught with uncertainty and obstacles at every turn. Yet, undeterred by the hardships that beset him, Rigard pressed on, his determination unwavering in the face of adversity. With each passing moment, he drew closer to his destination, propelled forward by the sheer force of his will. He was able to find his way onto a ship to give him passage. The ship, he shadowed the seasoned sailors, quietly observing their maneuvers and techniques. Despite his tender age of 13, the crew marveled at his prowess with a blade as he effortlessly outperformed every seasoned sailor on the vessel. The swiftness of his swordplay and the precision of his moves left the experienced seafarers in awe, their admiration echoing through the ship like a testament to the extraordinary skill of this young swordsman.
Captain Bellamy. Watch this!
Screamed one of the sailors, capturing the attention of the entire crew. Rigard brandished a wooden sword, mirroring an opponent among the pirates. Surrounding the two, the sailors engaged in a lively spectacle of bets, drinks, and laughter, creating an impromptu arena aboard the ship. As the elder pirate advanced with a menacing strike, the 13-year-old Rigard effortlessly parried the attack. In a swift countermove, he delivered 2 rapid strikes, one to the pirate's stomach and the second to the back of his neck, compelling him to kneel. The raucous scene elicited a divided response from the crew, with half cheering and others groaning at the unexpected outcome.
Child. Come here.
Bellowed Captain Bellamy, his voice cutting through the revelry, beckoning Rigard to step forward amidst the aftermath of the spirited bout.
Yes, sir.
Was the quick reply.
Let's go to my cabin.
As they walked into the cabin.
Why are you US? You have obviously royal training.
I disowned by my family, and I'm trying to find someone who can teach me the way of the sword.
Rigard replied.
Ever since I could walk, I had a natural talent with swords. I hear that there are masters in North Otros that can help.
You have a talent. Renwick is one of the best fighters on my ship and you treated him as if he didn't know anything. Just with US for a while we can show you some things, and you can help us with some big scores.
Rigard nods in agreement. The two exit the captain's chamber.
Listen up, just come. Welcome our newest cabin boy Rigard.
The crew cheered. For the next few years, Rigard fought shoulder to shoulder with Captain Bellamy, weathering storms both literal and metaphorical as they traversed treacherous waters. Together, they defended their ship against government battleships and rival pirates, their bond forged in the crucible of conflict. During the brief respites between battles, Rigard immersed himself in the world of knowledge, devouring books on mathematics and common languages. As he honed his skills as a swordsman, he also cultivated his mind, eager to expand his understanding of the world around him. Over time, Rigard became more than just a member of the crew. He became a beloved companion and confidant to Captain Bellamy and his men. In their eyes, he was like a son they never had, and they embraced him as one of their own. Finally, the day arrived when their ship docked in the bustling port town of Tabucar in North Otros. True to his word, Captain Bellamy introduced Rigard to a man who could guide him on the path to mastering the art of the sword, setting him on a new journey of self-discovery and growth. Here is a young man who has traveled with me for the last couple of years, Bellamy said.
He is wanting to find someone that can help him learn the sword. He is probably one of the best I have seen in my old age.
I know someone at the Temple of Archon. If he is good enough, they will take him.
The man said.
It's not too late to change your mind and work your way to be my second officer on my ship.
Smiled Bellamy.
Thank you, Captain Bellamy, for everything you've done for me.
Rigard expressed, his gratitude evident in his words.
But my path lies elsewhere. I've set my sights on mastering the sword, and I believe the Temple of Archon is where I can achieve that goal.
Bellamy nodded, a hint of pride shining in his eyes.
You've made your decision, lad, and I respect that. Just know that you and your ways have a place aboard my ship should you ever wish to return.
With a firm handshake and a heartfelt farewell, Rigard parted ways with Captain Bellamy and followed the man to the Temple of Archon, eager to embark on the next chapter of his journey. As Rigard stepped out of the carriage, he couldn't help but feel a sense of awe wash over him as he gazed upon the grandeur of the temple before him. The elderly man in the golden robe approached him with a serene smile, his presence exuding wisdom and tranquility.
Welcome, young traveler.
The elderly man greeted, his voice carrying a gentle warmth.
I am Master Lian, guardian of the sacred temple. It is an honor to receive you here.
Rigard returned the greeting with a respectful nod, his eyes taking in the imposing gates and the tranquil surroundings. As he entered the temple grounds, the heavy gates closed behind him, sealing him within the confines of this hallowed sanctuary. With a mix of anticipation and determination coursing through his veins, Rigard prepared himself for the rigorous training that awaited him under the guidance of the temple's revered monks. Master Leon guided Rigard to a 5-foot by 6-foot room with a sleeping mat in it and nothing else.
You can stay here till tomorrow and we will determine if you can stay.
As Rigard stepped into the modest room Master Leon had shown him, he felt a wave of humility wash over him. The space was sparse, with only a simple sleeping mat providing any semblance of comfort. Yet, Rigard knew that true growth often emerged from the depths of simplicity. With a sense of resolve, he settled onto the sleeping mat, his mind already racing with thoughts of the challenges that lay ahead. Determined to prove himself worthy of the teachings of the temple, Rigard closed his eyes, ready to embrace the journey that awaited him.